Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and a warm welcome to all of you, and Happy New Year. Today, we are going to learn more about the GRE. We have our GRE expert, Dr. Mansoor Aga, who is a veteran in this industry, has been in study abroad industry for years and years, has been associated with name any big brand, and he's been associated with them, has been in the study abroad industry, has done GMAT and GRE, TOEFL, SAT, name any product, and he knows that. Who is going to share some great insights on GRE Quant. I welcome you, Dr. Mansoor Aga, and I think the students are very excited to learn from you more about how do they do well in their GRE Quant.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. If something crops up in your head, you are absolutely free to type it down in chat and we'll see how we can address that question of yours. Also, although I'm going to show a certain number of questions and ask you to look at them and maybe even attempt them, but relax, you're not being tested in this particular session as such. The basic agenda for this session is that we are going to familiarize ourselves with the test structure, look at finer details of the quantitative reasoning section of the GRE. We do a quick comparative analysis about the GRE and the GMAT. We look at scoring, tips and strategies, and a few test prep resources as well. This is a quick introduction and my contact details. In case you have any questions after the webinar gets over, you can always get in touch with me. I want you to quickly jot it down, the phone number and the email ID. Or maybe take a screenshot. That would help. If I look at a very brief introduction of the GRE, then GRE is basically a test taken by graduate students who want to take admission into a postgraduate MS, MBA, or a PhD program in universities in USA, Canada, Europe, Singapore, Australia, and many other countries as well. It is accepted as a requirement not only for graduate programs, but it's also a requirement for MBA and MS in management programs in a greater number of countries. And a lot of business schools lately have realized that they get a very different profile of students from the GRE route as well. That's the reason why the success rate of students who've taken GRE as their aptitude test is on the higher side as compared to the GMAT in case of management programs. Since 1949, GRE has been created and administered by Educational Testing Services, ETS, and presently it is offered as a computer-based examination administered at various testing centers. Before we proceed ahead, we need to be very clear about certain things which are going to help you in the whole process of taking admission into a master's program. The American education system, it focuses upon the holistic development of personality of a student. And this is something which gets reflected in the admission process as well. So if you look at it, the admission process has clear numerical parameters and certain subjective parameters. Numerical parameters would include things such as your academic grades during your graduation and your school years, your GRE score, then the GRE subject scores in case they're required, and the TOEFL scores. These are numerical parameters. On the other hand, we have got subjective parameters also in the whole admission process. Things such as what was the difficulty level and diversity of the academic courses that you pursued so far, your inclination for research and academic activities. And in case you show an inclination for research and academic activities, then this becomes the biggest star on your label as such in the admission process. The quality and participation in extracurricular activities, your work experience, if you have any unique perspective that you as a candidate may have because of your different background as such. Any cross-cultural experience would also help here, and any leadership and team skills that you have. So any diversity that you can bring to your peer group at the college, all of that is very important for your admission process. Moreover, ranking organizations play a major role as various colleges want their rank to be on the higher side. The scores on GRE being one of the biggest parameters used by ranking organizations becomes a reason why GRE becomes a kind of a sieve. One way of filtering students, one way of weeding out students at the first stage when the number of applicants is on the higher side, and then later on other parameters gain more importance. And as the admission process proceeds further, the subjective parameters have a bigger role to play. So let's understand how important are these scores. If you're looking at a particular college where there are a greater number of applicants for a particular program, then your numerical parameters have a greater importance. So your GRE scores and your grade point average would have a major importance out here, and personals or would have a lesser importance. Personals would include your whole of application, your work experience, your extracurricular activities, and what kind of a person you really are. On the other hand, if you are applying to a particular college which has less applicants for a particular program, then your personals gain greater importance in case of such a college, and your numerical parameters on an average have lesser importance as compared to a college where there is a greater number of applicants. So if you are applying to a competitive program, a good program, then automatically there will be more applicants in that program. And if a program has got a greater number of applicants, automatically your GRE scores and your GPAs are very important there. In case of business schools, you also have to understand that you have a second option for admission into a business school, and that is the GMAT. You need to be very clear about whether a GMAT or GRE would be the right choice for you if your sole target is admission into a business school. So if you're targeting various kinds of programs, including programs from business schools, then GRE obviously is the first choice. But in a situation wherein you're only applying to a MBA program or to a master's in management program, in that situation, you'll have to take a decision about whether GMAT or GRE, which one would be a test that you're going to go for. You'll have to decide upon the weightage part, as well as you'll have to look at how easily can you prepare and end up getting a better score. There are reasons why some students are advised to go for a GRE or for a GMAT. Understand very clearly that the admission process in case of all kind of master's program is a pretty complex one. So when you apply and your application reaches a particular college, it goes to the graduate department of that particular college. It also goes to the graduate and international admissions office because you're an international student. And then there is a lot of give and take which happens. There's a lot of exchange of information which happens between the graduate department and the graduate international admissions office as such, because they take the decisions whether when they compare you with other students from their own country as such. At the same time, you also have to understand a copy of your application would go to the faculty committee, and a lot of members of the faculty committee are already members of the graduate department and the graduate international admissions office as well. So there's a lot of exchange of information between the graduate department and the faculty committee. This is the stage wherein the financial aid office also is looped in and is given information, because the fee structure and your expenses have to be taken into consideration. And financial aid office is the one which ends up giving a go ahead for your admission award, wherein you get a letter from the college about your admission, and you end up also getting another I-20 from the International Student Services. I-20 is the basis on which you apply for your visa. This is what the whole process actually is. So your finances, your being an international student, and your complete profile in terms of its numerical and subjective parameters, all of them have a role to play in the dynamics of the admission process. So what does a GRE really measure? Technically, if you look at it, then ETS says that quantitative section goes in for measuring you for your basic mathematical skills, understanding of elementary concepts, ability to reason in a quantitative manner or a mathematical manner, your aptitude to solve quantitative problems, and your ability to interpret graphic data. Verbal section goes in for checking you for your ability to understand and evaluate whatever is read, and to recognize basic conventions of standard written English. The AWA section checks you for your ability to think critically and to communicate complex ideas in a written format. But what the test actually measures more often than not is how good a test taker you are. If you are somebody who's good at quant, verbal, and AWA, but you have never prepared for this examination in a focused manner, then you will not end up with a good score. But if you prepare properly for the GRE, then you'll end up getting the highest score possible as such in case of this examination. Now, GRE is basically an aptitude test for postgraduate admissions, and all aptitude tests are basically modified IQ tests. And they check reasoning is something which is not taught to you in your school or in your college, but at the same time, reasoning is something that you learn automatically all by yourself right from the day you are born. And you end up understanding from the inputs given what decision would help you, what decision is going to help you succeed. Then there are certain behaviors which are shown only by people who are very intelligent, and there are certain number of questions which are based upon these hallmarks of intelligence. And broadly, these are the four areas which get really tested in case of any IQ test. But if you look at the GRE not only needs to test you for these four areas, GRE also needs to check you for your ability to critically think and understand how to do argumentation, your ability to write, your ability to comprehend difficult instructions. Then you will come across a lot of designs of various questions which have difficult instructions, and unless and until you're comfortable with those instructions, you will not be able to score in those areas. It is a 1 hour 58-minute long test if I go into the specific details of this examination. And except for the essay, the rest of the examination is objective in nature, which and has multiple choice questions. This examination is divided into 5 sections. There's a section of analytical writing assessment, two verbal reasoning sections, two quantitative reasoning sections. I'm going to touch upon the AWA and the verbal reasoning section for a moment until I go into details of the quantitative reasoning section. So this used to be the previous structure of the GRE. Pretty long, 3 hour 45 minutes long. Recently, depending because of the inputs that we got from students and the requirements from various admission authorities, we went in for changing this test, and now this test is a much shorter test and a much more effective test as such. So presently, this is a test which is barely 1 hour 58 minutes long. It has an AWA section which has one essay task which takes a total of 30 minutes. There's a quantitative reasoning which has got two sections with a total of 27 questions and takes 47 minutes. Then a verbal reasoning section which again has two sections with a total of 27 questions and 41 minutes. So the estimated time of this test is 1 hour 58 minutes. This is what a GRE scorecard looks like. I want you to have a look at it to understand what is the target that you are looking at. The scores that you get are in terms of percentile and a certain scale score, which we're going to dwell upon to a greater extent later. So, GRE basically tests you for three broad subjects in 5 sections. There's an analytical ability section, which is a single one, and verbal and the quantitative reasoning sections. There are two sections each. So, if I look at the AWA section, it has a duration of 30 minutes. You have a score range of 0 to 6 in 0.5 mark increments. You have to type in one essay in 30 minutes, which will be an analyze and issue task. And when you go in for doing this particular section, then you assess for your ability to construct arguments, which means you need to have a viewpoint and you need to give reasons why that viewpoint is acceptable. And you need to be good at argumentation. You need to articulate and support complex ideas. You need to sustain a focus and a very coherent discussion in your whole essay as such. It does not test you for specific content knowledge as such. So you really do not need to pick up knowledge in a certain area in order to be good at AWA. But yes, you need to be somebody who knows what argument is and how arguments are framed, plus how do you express your argument as such. Take care that you end up breaking the 450 word barrier in each essay. Longer essays have a tendency to fetch comparatively greater amount of marks because with a longer essay, you will be able to do justice to the requirements of the essay. A 5 paragraph structure, it works best, and you've got to learn critical reasoning argumentation skills in order to write a technically correct argument essay also. You can practice writing essays using the same word processor that is available on gre.org, and there's even a complete pool of various issue and argument essay topics which can be downloaded from gre.org. The next section is a verbal reasoning section, but I'm going to only give you a moment about on it. In case of the verbal reasoning section, you have a total of 2 sections with 27 questions in total, and you get 41 minutes of time. In the verbal reasoning section, remember there are 2 sections. The first section has 12 questions, the second one has 15. The timings are 18 minutes and 23 minutes in the 2 sections. Score ranges between 130 to 170. Each verbal reasoning section would have reading comprehension, text completion, sentence equivalence questions, and they assess your ability to draw conclusions from the written material, reason from incomplete data, identify the author's assumptions and perspectives, understand multiple levels of meaning such as literal, figurative, and author's intent. You have to be good at selecting important points, distinguish major from minor or irrelevant points, summarize text, do paraphrasing, understand the structure of a text, understand the meanings of words. You need to have a great vocabulary, sentences and entire texts, understand relationships among words and among concepts. This verbal reasoning section measures your ability to understand what you're reading and how you apply your reasoning skills in language. And I'll move on ahead and start with the mathematical reasoning section. The GRE quantitative reasoning section has or part has two sections, 1 and 2. Section 1 has a total of 12 questions and you're given 21 minutes to do them. Section 2 has 15 questions and you get a total time of 26 minutes. The score ranges between 130 to 170. Each quantitative reasoning section has questions on problem solving, quantitative comparisons, and data interpretation. You need to be good at understanding what are the specific requirements of problem solving, quantitative comparisons, and data interpretation questions, although I'll summarize them for you. This whole of the quantitative reasoning section, it basically assesses your ability to reason in a quantitative manner. Reason in mathematics, I would say. Think in mathematics. You need to be good at solving quantitative problems, interpret graphic data, which is pretty complicated at times, and you need to have the ability to analyze and use information which has been given in the problem. There's an on-screen calculator provided during the quantitative reasoning section, which basically is an indicator that your ability to calculate is really not being tested, but the decisions which you take about what calculation has to be done is something which is crucial for you to get a higher score. This is what the on-screen calculator looks like. You can even change its position on the screen while you are solving your questions. The problem-solving questions are based upon arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data interpretation. Trigonometry and calculus are rare. And problem-solving questions are designed to test the ability to reason in a quantitative manner and solve quantitative problems. In these questions, you may be asked to select one answer, one or more than one answers, or may be asked to make a numeric entry, which means you'll have to type down the real answer in the space which is provided. So, problem solving questions may require you to select one answer choice, multiple answer choices, answers, or you'll have to go in for typing down your answer in case of numeric entry questions. So, this is what the screen would possibly look like. You can play around with the position of the calculator while you're solving a question. You have a certain number of buttons on the screen which talk about quitting the test, exiting the section, reviewing a particular question, marking a question. You can hide time or you can show time, you can go back or you can go forth. If you need some kind of help, then you can even click this button, although it is not advised. You should be very comfortable with the structure and the dynamics of the test on the screen, and you should not be using first, second, third, first, second, and the fifth button as such if you're seriously taking the test. This is another example of a question. Just look at another third question. You have to understand that when we talk about problem solving questions, then there are certain skills which get tested openly or in an overt manner. On the other hand, there are certain skills that normally students do not focus upon, which are tested in a hidden manner or a covert manner. I call them as overt skills and covert skills. Overt skills which get tested are your knowledge of basic mathematical concepts and formulas, your ability to apply mathematical concepts and formulas in order to solve problems, your ability to calculate accurately, your ability to solve questions faster. At the same time, if you look at those skills which are tested in a hidden manner, then you need to be good at understanding the question's language and attempting it by selecting a method which would need less amount of time, less number of calculations or fewer calculations, and still it would ensure accuracy in terms of your answer. You need to not know more formulas or difficult formulas and difficult calculations, but you need to have a certain sense of mathematics or the ability to play around with numbers, which is really being tested. You need to be good at understanding what data has been provided in the question and what is the question really asking for. And then you got to find out that particular answer. Then one crucial thing which gets tested in case of problem solving questions is you need to be good at taking the decision whether a calculation is required in order to get the answer, or can the question be done without any calculations as such. So these are the crucial skills which you develop after doing a lot of practice upon the overt skills. Understand that. You cannot directly work on the covert skills, but keep them in mind that these are the abilities that need to be developed in case of problem solving questions. So, if we look at advice which you would possibly give to a student for doing good upon problem solving questions, then that advice is that you need to follow a clear 4-step procedure where you read the question carefully to understand what the real problem is. Then you decide upon a strategy for solving the problem. Remember, each question can be solved by several methods. But out of those various methods, there will be always one method which can be learned easily. It will be a method which requires fewer number of steps of calculations, and it is a procedure in which you will not get confused. That particular method, which has all of these abilities, is called as a strategy. So you need to decide after looking at a question which particular strategy is going to be used by you while solving the question. Also take a decision whether while applying this strategy, do you really need a calculator? Do you really need to calculate or not? Because although calculations are pretty easy because of the presence of a calculator upon the screen, even then it's a decision which you'll have to take. And a lot of time and a lot of errors would depend upon whether you've used a calculator or not, whether you use the calculator in the right manner or not. And in order to improve your accuracy, you should have the ability to check your answers also. You should be into the habit of checking your answers always, all the time. So it's a 4-step procedure. This is the stage at which I would like to stop the session and ask you for any questions that you have in mind. Priyank ma'am, can you join me?
So guys, if you have any questions, please you can write it down in the chat box.
I do not think I've given you all the information about the quantitative reasoning part, so you definitely should be having some questions in mind. But the basic purpose of this particular webinar was to start that process of you asking me more pointed questions. This is the reason why right in the beginning I went in for sharing my contact details with all of you. I want you to connect with me and ask me anything which comes to your mind as you start your preparation. You all have my phone number and my email ID. You can ask me later also. There's one question which I definitely wanted somebody to ask me here. And that's a question which students normally ask once they've started their preparation and they start taking their mock exams or the simulated exams. That question is that when we start our preparation, how different is the quantitative reasoning section from the kind of mathematics that you studied back in your school or in your college? When you start your verbal reasoning preparation, then how different is verbal reasoning of GRE from whatever English as a language you have studied back in your school or in your college? So understand very clearly that whatever was the mathematics or the English that you studied back in your school and your college, it was very different from whatever is going to come upon this examination. And here in this examination, if I just talk about mathematics, then the focus is not upon difficult formulas and difficult calculations or multi-step calculations. The focus is upon how comfortable are you with mathematics? Do you have a sense of mathematics or not? Have you really worked hard so far in mathematics, which gives you a certain comfort in playing around with mathematics as such? So, if you compare a question of percentages which appears on GRE and a question of percentages which appears in your school or college examinations, then these two questions will be very different. A difficult school question on percentages will require difficult formulas and difficult calculations. But a difficult question of percentages on the GRE will not be focused upon difficult formulas or difficult concepts as such. Instead, it will have a language which will make it more confusing. It may be asking for X and you may get an impression it is asking for Y. So the true hardcore mathematics which is tested in case of GRE quantitative reasoning is on the easier side. But it is the language of the questions which makes it more tricky, confusing. As a result, students end up getting a lower accuracy, although the questions seem to be easier because they're asking for easier concepts. Similar is the case of the verbal reasoning part. In case of verbal reasoning, the reading comprehension is something that you've studied from class 3rd till your class 10th definitely. But the rules of reading comprehension are slightly difficult and different in case of your GRE part, and the questions are of more number of types, and they would require a greater focus for you to understand which category this particular question belongs to. Every question type has a different strategy which has to be used, and unless and until you're using the right strategy, you will end up messing up your answers as such. There's some question which has been asked in chat. I'll just check if I can give you a few answers.
Sir, if you could please share your contact details again, please.
I'll do that.
Thank
I'll do
you.
that. I'll just type in my details. In the meantime, I also try answering one of the questions. Desh Sharma has asked, would I be sharing a chapter specific strategy like for topic on probability in this session? Desh, I'll require a lot of time, man, for you, with you in order to share the strategies for every area. The basic thing is you need to be comfortable with every chapter, then see what kind of questions are framed upon that chapter in case of the GRE, and realize why you are making mistakes and focus upon not making that same kind of a mistake later on future questions. That is how you modify your school level mathematics into a GRE, into a mathematics which is required for the GRE quantitative reasoning part. I've shared my email ID, my phone number, and my name with you in the chat. You can copy from here. You can also get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm present there with the same name, so it will be easier for you to find me there. Samrat has asked, if you have an average GPA, does GRE score make a difference or getting better scholarship, or nothing can help it? No. You have to understand very clearly that the focus of American education is not alone upon academics. It is upon your whole personality. Academics plays a role inside it, a part role inside it. And in case your GPA scores are on the lower side and your GRE scores are on the higher side, this proves your competence. Then you can be compared to any other student who's applied for the same program. And having a higher GRE score is one of the numerical parameters which is very easy to use by all the colleges, as that's the reason why GRE becomes very important. If you look at GPA scores of two different students coming from two different academic backgrounds from two different countries are almost incomparable. That is the reason why GRE provides a common yardstick by which all students can be compared to each other. So GRE is going to make a difference, definitely. It helps you in your scholarship, it helps you in your admission part as well. But I'm not telling you to keep your GPA scores low. If you still have chances of improving them, Please keep on working upon them. GPA, GRE, both of them are required. At the same time, you need to prove your competence in English as a language. There's a reason why a English language proficiency test such as TOEFL is also something that you'll have to possibly give. At times, there may be a situation where you can apply to a particular college and they may waive off the requirement for a certain test. Apeksha, we can possibly at a later stage focus upon a certain topic if you want that in a master class, and we can do that. For example, there are confusing topics such as inequalities and probability. I can possibly do a master class upon a specific area also. Don't worry. But right now, we would not have the time to do that. I will repeat once again. For people who have started on this GRE route for the first time in their lives, and as they proceed ahead, they are going to come across more blind alleys, more confusions. I'm available for you. You have my phone number, you have my email ID. You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Please feel free to get in touch with me and ask me and clear any doubts or confusion that you may have, whether in case of GRE preparation or in the admission process.
Probably we'll do another session specifically on what they on each section.
Sure.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today and guiding our students. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. If you'd like a specific section, then you can talk to Sobit sir, and we can do that again very soon as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Bye.